Welcome to Gray Overload, and let's talk about the 5070 Ti. Here, Nvidia has a card, and if we ignore price, because the MSRP is 750, and if you just ignore the price of where it's at right now, is you get something that's actually kind of interesting compared to the 4080 and the 4080 Super. So it's right in that range. So we're starting to, and you can argue that 5070, the base model, should be more the 4080, but if you're getting that range, right, if we have MSRP, I know these are huge ifs. That's where we are. If you can get the card for MSRP, you've kind of dropped that price of that 4080 Super down to $750, to about $250 less, and that makes some sort of sense. At least we're getting some progress of dropping down that performance into a different price bracket. I mean, that's what we are in now, right? We don't have like price sections or brackets now because we're into the thousands of dollars for the high-end GPUs rather than just, up to $1,000. So that's a whole another thing. But I'm ignoring price right now. We'll get to price here in a little bit. So, it's in there. You're about what, 11 to 15% slower than that 5080. I believe that these are the same die. They just have one less decoder on them, but it still has the two encoders. And the power is, slightly lower. It seemed to me to be a little bit closer to the 5080 than what I was just thinking in my head. But, that could have been my assumptions of what I was, something I was hoping for. Overall, right, this sets up interesting because we've heard that the AMD's 9070 is going to be in that we're shooting for a 4080 Super. So you're going to have competing cards right in there. Now, we'll get more on that in a little bit. And it seems like the ray tracing stuff is right in there, right? Your percentage points difference, and you're what, about 11% faster or so than the 4070 Super, or about 15% in 4K. What was it in 4070 Super was about 12%. So give or take 10% if you're 1080p, depending upon where you're at, relative performance there. So you got a little bit of a jump right from last gen. We're not getting our huge jumps like we used to get. I think I've kind of mentioned that on some of the other 58 or 5080 and 5090. So just keep that in mind. And here we are, right? And you get a little bit of improvement, right? You get that you get that basically that GPU above it slot of last gen slotted into its performance slot, which uh, that's what I like to see. Again, you could argue it should be down to that 4070, 5070 to 4070, but Nvidia's putting this Ti in. At least Nvidia didn't put the what, 4080 16 gig and 4080 or I should say the 5080 16 gig and 5080 faster 16 gig, right? Like they try to do. What was it? Last gen was 12 and what was it? 16 gig or something like that for the 4070 when they first launched it, and then they unlaunched it. So at least they didn't do that, right? So there's a benefit there. So yeah, just take a look at it. If you can get it for MSRP and that's just something that you're looking for in your price range, yeah, I think it makes some sort of sense. But if in price relation to, the 4070 Ti and 4070, if you can't get it for MSRP, then and you're getting it for that let's say it's $900, which I was on Newegg and I also saw on Micro Center that they're getting up there in price. At that point, right, I'd be looking at, well, if you can get a 5080 for MSRP, the 5080 at that point. But that's, you also have the 4080s right there as well. This is just, too expensive at that point. No point getting it. Just sitting on the sidelines, and there's reports out there might take 6 weeks, April time frame, where you might have an option to pick up one of these. That's the disappointing part, right? Jay's 2 cents was on this whole price thing. Vex, VX. he was on the whole pricing thing talking about it too, and that's the disappointing part. I was holding out hope that this would be, MSRP for a lot of the cars, but when there was rumors coming out and stuff like this that they'd be more expensive, it's really, really not a good sign. I was listening to Moore's Law is Dead, and he was talking about some of the inventory stuff there, and it just gets disappointing. And if that's going to be the current market that we're in this all performance, right? Overall, the performance is what it is at this point. I've kind of, if you take my thoughts on the 50, 90, and 50, 80 of how I was disappointed there, I recalibrated where I was, and then at this point, I'm like, meh, it's kind of, it's that 40, 80 super kind of pulled down to a different price range. In theory, okay, this is what we got. It it is what it is at this point, and I can't, hope it was different or whatever else. It's what Nvidia is doing, and now we have this pricing situation where these prices are getting up to $900. You basically, let's say it's at 900, and you get lucky enough that it's just a $900 price point, not 940, not 960, not 980, not up to 1,000. You're just at 900. That's let's say $1,000 or $1,100 savings off of that 4080 super. So just think about it that way, right? And if you're getting up to that, like I said, $900, I mean, 750 I think is where it should sit at, and it should stay there, but we're going to see something above it, and that's going to be the disappointing part in all of this. I know that if you're in other countries besides the United States, there's, taxes and everything else, and that's also going to put an additional cost on top, whatever else goes into that cost calculation, which makes it even more unattractive, or more, not attractive at all. So that's the difficult part. And then you get into thinking, and this is kind of what I want to get into a little bit more here, is that the thinking on this, right, is okay, Nvidia is the only game in town for this performance right now. I mean, you got the 7900 XT and XTX, which are in that realm, right? They're right. What AMD's targeting was the 4080 Super in their 9070 XT. So kind of take that into account when you're thinking about these prices and what AMD is going to do. If that is the case and AMD is going to have performance there, well, then AMD has to really hit this. Now, AMD hit this on price. Now, AMD has gone through and said that they want it to be like a 7800 value proposition. We'll see it like that. I hope that that's the case. If they're going for that value proposition, this has to be the 9070 XT has to be a $600 card. It can't be 650, can't be 700. Gamers Nexus was saying this jokingly. Uh, I think. I mean, it's true. Is that you can't just be Nvidia minus $50. And Gamers Nexus, while he's telling truth to it, he's kind of jokingly saying like you got to stop it, right? And they need to provide that value. If they want that value proposition, you got to be 9070 XT, $600, and then $500 for the 9070, and let's see where the performance sits, right? We have that 5070 still coming out. I would expect that if AMD is going to do this and they're hitting their targets, is that 5070 is going to be, this 5070 Ti is going to be roughly the same. If not, AMD can squeak out a little win here or there with their performance on the 9070 XT against it. That'd be great. Even if they can have an overall winner, I think at $600, a lot of people would be attracted to that. And I think it would bring a spark to the market where people would appreciate and want to get in there, right? At this point, Nvidia is opening up the door for AMD to bring a spark, and we'll see if they can do it. Now, if you have the 9070 there sitting at 500, that's now $50 lower than the 5070, but if you can get that, above the performance price or above the performance of that 5070, let's say it's 10% roughly. Let's say it can get into there. Let's see. I don't know if they'd be able to, just looking at the numbers here quick. You got a 4070. Yeah, you get up to the GRE from the 4070, you'd have close to 10% if you know, if you can get up to yeah, you might be able to do 10%ish or so, maybe over the 5070, depending upon what it sits at. I'm just kind of specking these out. Yeah, maybe you only get a few percentage points, right? Maybe you have to have that at 480 then. Uh, Providing value in both, I think, will be key, right? Bringing these to a 50 or 7800 uh, XT value, 7800, that graphics card from Radeon here that was so good at last generation. If they can bring that value to everybody else, we have something here. I think we can. I think AMD can invigorate an area of gaming right now with graphics that people are frustrated with. And the one other thing that they need is stock. Now, we think that this has been delayed, right? AMD's changing stuff around, so officially, I think it's all been delayed. But if they can, have stock, have it on the shelves, and just get it through and have more than, what it seems to be. Let's count all the people on one hand that have gotten a card. Everyone raised their hand that's gotten one of these Nvidia cards. That's what it seems like is going on, and that's it. But if AMD can do that, I think that they can reinvigorate it, and that's kind of where we're sitting now. Do I have faith in AMD? AMD has to show it at this point. They've mucked with their pricing every generation. It seems like lately they haven't really hit it out of the park. I mean, especially most recently, that 7900 XT was just a bad price point to begin with, and so AMD's kind of got to hit it out of the park here. And if they can, I think that they're going to invigorate a lot of people. Be like, you know what, I'm going to try it. We'll see where FSR4 is and how that's all going. But I think people are open to something in this market that's, at least a little bit positive, at least on the shelves, and for a good price. And if they can hit those, people are going to be, I think, more receptive to it. So we'll see, right? If AMD can stack a little bit of a win here, I think that'd be beneficial, especially for AMD to, put some more, hopefully more effort into this gaming market. We'll see how their future holds, but they're going up against Nvidia, which the 5070 Ti, I was shocked that when this price was going to be 750 when Nvidia announced it. And here we are. You kind of see how the performance of the 5090 and the 5080 were. And so you take a look at that and see where those prices were. And Nvidia kind of is just slotting in and thinking, this is, as long as they go for MSRP, we can still stave off anything AMD can do. And it's because AMD kind of has tripped over their feet over and over again. And maybe that proves to be correct again this generation. But there's an opening here, and we'll see if AMD can take advantage of it. So my thoughts are on Nvidia. If you really want one and you can get one, especially for the 750, I think that is a very good deal from especially last generation. You're bringing that price down about to $250, so that makes a lot of sense. But if you're getting up towards $1,000, you could have had the 4070 Ti or something and been gaming on it for months, or when it came out, rather than waiting for the 5070 Ti, because the 4070 Ti did beat it out in some scenarios, but it's still faster, right? It's still faster than last gen, and you could have even had the if you're paying upwards of $1,000, you could have the 4080 Super, and been gaming on that for months too, which to me, you'd want that price to come down so it'd make it worth it. So a little bit of my thoughts on this whole 5070 Ti, and I think it's more a little bit of thinking about hopefully where AMD can go to. I think AMD can make this market interesting. We'll just have to see. Nvidia right now with the stock issues and everything else, and it makes it hard, right? If the stock issues are there and prices go up, well, you got a problem. I mean, Nvidia doesn't have a problem, but consumers got a problem because then it starts pricing it. It's really unattractive. So that's what I think. But let me know in the comments below what you think on the 5070 Ti, and if you're looking at getting it. I would actually like to, have a couple of these GPUs to throw in a system, be able to test. But heck, I might not even be able to get my hands on one. So we'll see. But with that, I want to thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for helping and supporting Gray Overload. And be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, as it really does help in my channels. I really do appreciate everyone in the community helping this channel grow. And hopefully something more soon from the channel as well. Thanks so much. Until next time, God bless.